Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donohue and Sonia Mansfield, talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donohue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my amazing friend.
Hello, my amazing friend. We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. And if you're new to the show, just to let you know, today's a little different because we're not picking one particular person. Sometimes we take a theme of a generation or a type of person. So we're talking about Gen X men today, something Sonia and I know an awful lot about. But just to keep y'all, if this is your first time listening and you're like, oh, is this just going to be a whole bummer where we scream about men? Yes. But at the end, just kidding. JK, y'all, we have male fans too. They send us fan letters.
We do.
Because we're cool chicks. But anyway, at the end of the episode, we always have somebody who is not a creep. So it leaves you feeling a little bit more hopeful about the world. The thing with our show is we've been doing this for 5 or 6 years now. Who knows?
Yeah.
We're on our 27th season. We always look for suggestions for creeps and non-creeps. So let me just give y'all the rundown. We have a basic Facebook page. That's where people go to complain about our language. This is your warning. We use salty language in this program.
Fuck shit, damn.
Though I doubt any children around you care about Gen X. They're like, who those old geezers? Who gives a shit? And they're not wrong. But we are very interactive in our private Facebook group. You go to Facebook and you type in What a Creep podcast group and ask to join. You have to answer a few questions. It's just to weed out the assholes. It's a nice, safe space where we hang out. It's about pop culture and what's going on in the world. And we show our animal pictures and all kinds of fun stuff. So What a Creep podcast group. Yes. It's one of the few places you and I hang out on Facebook anymore. We used to be on Twitter, but we don't do that anymore. But when we were at CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep for 10 years and never used it. Creep. But we're on Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky at What a Creep Podcast. And we have an old-timey email, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. And if you would like some stickers, wherever you are on the planet of Earth, I will get you some stickers if you'd like some. So email us your address. And I sent to Denmark last week. And Sonia, you saw today, we got somebody from Belgium.
I love Belgium. I've been there.
Me too,
it's
Bruges.
so great.
It's beautiful.
You have the best beer too.
And great chocolate.
And great waffles.
And the architecture. And it's beautiful.
So great.
It's wonderful. So thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Sonia, do you want to tell them about our website?
Yeah, go to whatacreeppodcast.com and it's everything you want to know about the podcast, but we're afraid to ask. We have links to all of our past episodes and they're in little blog posts and you could open them up and you could see our show notes because we source everything we do. We're not making this stuff up. We want to give people credit for the work they do. So if you're looking for a deeper dive on any of our creeps, that's a fabulous place to start. So do that. There's also a link to our merch shop where you can get t-shirts and tote bags and face masks and journals and all kinds of cool stuff. So do that. I'm going to put some new designs in there in the new year. So be on the lookout for that. I'm pondering things. There's also a link to our Patreon. You want to tell them about that, Margot?
Yes, Patreon. We have our first 9 seasons available on our Patreon wall. That's for everyone who signs up and pays a monthly fee. We have a couple of very affordable options. We also put out 2 bonus episodes a month. And they are video episodes and audio, either one. So if you want to see what we look like when we're talking, want to see our pusses when we're talking, that's the best way to do it.
This will never not make me laugh.
I do it just to make her laugh.
Every time she refers to our face as a puss, it makes me laugh.
It was a mom thing. My mom always said that. What can I say? This past month in November, we did put out 2 episodes, and one of them was for free because it was a post-election, like, let's all cling to one another in a prayer circle kind of thing.
Group hug.
Group hug. Next month, we'll put out an extra extra bonus episode for all you Patreon members, and also our Christmas episode for Patreon members. We give a shout out to everybody that's a Patreon member. Woo! It's fun.
We do. It's pretty epic. It's pretty epic.
It's very epic. And we just use those costs for things like the subscriptions for the news that we subscribe to and that we use in this show, and the cost for putting the show together. To all of you, I want to thank Rachel and Heather who recently joined. We really, really appreciate y'all are great. You can also sign up for free because we put some free stuff there sometimes if we have video clips that illustrate the show that we're working on, or for the other show we're working on, which we'll mention at the end of this podcast. And also, Sonia, do we have a new iTunes review?
We do, from Johnny Appleseed. He's famous.
He is. And old.
He gave us.
Are you okay, Johnny?
Yeah.
Is your back hurting now? Your feet hurting now? What's going on?
He gave us a lovely review on iTunes. They don't make it easy, so we super appreciate that. And he just feels like since the election, he's found his people here with the What a Creep crowd. So thank you for the review. And welcome to the group.
Johnny.
Welcome to the cohort, Johnny Appleseed.
Welcome to the Terror Dome, as Public Enemy would say. But you, Johnny, we don't mean you if you're a Gen X man, by the way. You will be, all of our Gen X men that listen to the show and our allies, we don't mean you. Just understand what we're talking about today. But
immediately we could do the hashtag not all men. We get it.
We get it.
We get it.
Not all white people. Okay.
Okay.
But really. And unfortunately, I no longer have Chartable, which used to tell me all around the world where y'all went on Apple Podcasts and left us 5-star reviews. So I'm sorry I don't know it. But still, if you could do that, that would be amazing. Spotify is real simple now to leave reviews. Really important, just stay subscribed. And that way you'll never miss an episode. Okay, Sonia, are you ready to talk about this shit? I am.
I can't wait.
Well, let me ask you first, because this is also going to be one of our more chatty episodes. We'll kind of go back and forth a bit. How do you feel about being a member of Gen X? If you were to meet a younger person, they's like, what is quintessential about Gen X?
I used to be really proud
of
being Gen X because we were kind of the fuck around, find out people. We are a generation of latchkey kids that are pretty self-sufficient. We, would be gone for all day and your parents don't know where you are. It's before cell phones, So we used to get up to wild and crazy shit and your parents never know. And I was always super proud of that. Gen X let me down this November, and that bummed me out.
Right.
I was really bummed out. I felt like we were the MTV generation. We are liberal. We are open-minded. And
not so fast.
A bunch of us didn't show up right in November, and it's fucking embarrassing. It's embarrassing. So now I'm like, I'm not with them. I'm not with them. What do you think about Generation X?
A lot of what you thought about. I mean, and for me, I used to think about, we were not the hippies generation, and we were not like the Parents Square generation of the 50s. We were, like you said, we thought of ourselves as edgier. We thought of ourselves as much more open-minded. We didn't have a problem with gay people. We were we're so much more than that, more worldly, let's say, and more about kind of not true. It turns out we have our short-sightedness for different reasons. Oh, right. It's racism and the patriarchy. Never mind.
It's so disappointing because when we were younger and we saw the boomer generation, or that would be our parents, the boomer generation, their reaction to gay people. And we were like, what the fuck is wrong with you? They're just people. Who cares? Let them live their lives. And now Gen X is that way about trans people.
Exactly. That's where I feel too. And I think that for me, I started noticing in my 20s that a lot of guys that were my age, I always said it I always talk about a certain subset of men of this was every first date I had in the 90s and early 2000s was a certain type of guy that we're going to go through today. And there were some very toxic traits. And I think it's part of that was, well, let me go through my intro.
Yeah.
And then we'll go through our sources. And then I'll actually lay out the topics I want to go through. I'm going to be really organized today, y'all. I had the day off yesterday. I was like really into it.
Let's do it.
All right. So what is Gen X? They're born between 1965 and 1980. I've heard 1975, but I'm going to bump it up to 1980 because to me, people born in the 70s, definitely.
I read 1980.
Yes.
That's the cutoff I read as well. So
it's a 15-year designation. Gen X is often referred to as the forgotten generation. They were raised on MTV, punk rock, hip hop, the Cold War, after-school specials, latchkey childhoods, and a healthy dose of cynicism. Wow, a lot of cynicism.
Yep.
We gave you grunge music, independent films, mixtape culture, and some of the best pop culture of the late 20th century. Fact. But along with that coolness came a hefty dose of entitlement, misogyny, and resistance to change, especially when it came to gender equality.
Mm-hmm.
So today we're going to break it all down. The mixtape mentality, toxic fandom, the fetishization of the manic pixie dream girl. You try saying that 3 times fast. The anti-hippie ethos, and how these dynamics played out with public figures such as JD Vance, Dave Grohl, Chris Rock, Joe Rogan, and even Kurt Cobain. No, not Kurt. You'll understand what I mean when I get to Kurt. And no, he was not bad, but fuck him that he's not here with us today. It is.
Yeah.
I wish he had, for many reasons. But anyway, sources for this episode, yahoo.com, New York Times, Compact Magazine, Wikipedia, of course, Pure Wow, the Toronto Star, Daily Beast. And then I put links for past shows in case y'all are interested. Nice Guys and Wife Guys. These were all yours, I think, Sonia.
Oh.
Toxic Fandom.
Yep.
And Pick Me Girls and Cool Girls.
Yes, I love a category.
And we did talk, a lot of pick-me's are from our generation, by the way.
Yes.
So we did talk about what we find toxic in women our age. Yes, so was I.
Yes. So if you're like, how come they're picking on Gen X men? Go listen to the Pick-me's and the Cool Girl episode. That's basically the female version.
We hold our own feet to the fire on that and admit embarrassing shit.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So first, let's just start with the mixtape mentality. Oh, the cassette tape. It was so interesting when it came along. When we were born, when you and I were young, it was records and the 8-track. And if you don't know what an 8-track is, you don't really need to know. But it's like it's a gigantic contraption that's a cartridge that you put in, and it had a tape, like a cassette tape. And it was so ridiculous to use. It was like the sound was terrible, but everybody had them in their cars.
I had a car that had an 8-track. I had a 1978 Camaro.
I had a Camaro too, a bitchin' Camaro, and I switched it out for a cassette deck, and I felt like I was hot as shit.
Nope. I was like, that's expensive. It wasn't expensive. But I was like, that's expensive because I work minimum wage at the movie theater. So I still had an 8-track, and I had like the Grease soundtrack. I think I had some Rick Springfield because it's all from the like 70s or whatever, like early 80s. I had Steve Martin's Comedy Is Not Pretty and like a whole bunch of like Kenny Rogers. And Queen. There was a Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But mostly, yeah.
I have a Saturday Night Fever one.
That'll always Saturday Night Fever one. Yes.
Right. If you're a Gen Xer, you probably made or received one at some point. They weren't just a collection of songs, they were emotional artifacts. For a lot of Gen X men, the mixtape was a way to express feelings they couldn't articulate directly. It was their version of a love letter, a way to say, look how deep I am. And have you ever been given a mixtape?
Yep.
Same.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But sometimes they were songs I think you would love. And those are the tapes I actually really enjoyed and listened to. And then there were the ones that I'm going to call them boys gave me that I was like, oh, they want me to study. Like, these
Yeah.
are songs I want you to like because I like them.
Margot, you don't really know about Belle and Sebastian. Let me try again.
Oh, I'm feeling so triggered right now. I love being quizzed about things I love. It's my favorite.
I love being second guessed and eye rolled about things that just give me pleasure that I don't judge anybody else fucking for. Anyway, sometimes this was sweet and heartfelt, like you said, when it's something like this reminds me of you, or these are like, that kind of thing. But it was like, this is what I think you should like this is going to elevate your game.
Gross.
This is going to level you up with your taste. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Sometimes this is sweet and heartfelt, and let's be honest, it was also a little manipulative. The mixtape often came with unspoken expectation. I made this for you, so you owe me your attention, your affection, and maybe even your love. And if the person on the receiving end didn't respond the way you wanted, cue the bitterness. I'm a nice guy. I went through all this trouble to make this mixtape for you, and why didn't you really appreciate
now
it?
Reward me.
And it is one of the most annoying things. Like we were growing up, and we'll talk about Saturday Night Fever because I'm writing a book on it. But when I was young, there was this whole anti-disco backlash that was completely driven by boomer men that taught their younger generation and the generation after that to hate disco because, God forbid, it's something that young girls enjoy at the roller skating place. Like, we can't have that. It's using the mixtape mentality. And I am somebody that I was a fitness instructor for 10 years. I can make a mixtape. I can DJ a party that will rock you on your fucking ass. It is
doubt.
One of my superpowers. I don't need your help with that. But this was something that was done. And I think it was in place of writing a love letter and place. And I get it. It's hard to be vulnerable and express your feelings. And music is a way to music is deeply emotional. Yeah. It is a way to connect. But for a lot of dudes, it's kind of like this shorthand of, I don't have to tell her things and I don't have to write her things. I'll just give her this plastic thing. And that says everything. And it does not. It does not. And
it's not a replacement.
It is not a replacement. All right. So the second thing I want to talk about today, why did I write this down? The fetishization of the Manic Pixie dream girl. Speaking of unobtainable muses, let's talk about her. This trope, it's a quirky, free-spirited woman who exists to inspire and fix a man. That was absolutely fetishized. And we're talking about Natalie Portman in Garden State, Winona Ryder in a lot of her films, Reality Bites, Edward Scissorhands. They're not fully developed characters. They're fantasies for emotionally stunted men.
Yes.
To help them out of their problems. The problem with this trope is these women don't have their own agency.
Correct.
They are not about they're always about, hey, let me fix your car. Isn't that, I love Something Dead. Sorry, Better Off Dead. Like, yes, that's a perfect example. Like, she's like, I'm going to fix your car for you. And now you're going to be this amazing person. Now you have confidence. And it's one thing to meet somebody and help them, give them confidence. It's another thing altogether when it is your fucking job to do that for someone who cannot do that for themselves. Yes. Who have the capability to do it for themselves, but they don't want to. And they think, I'll just find. And then on top of all of that, you're expected to be cute and adorable and not have problems and not have moods and not have needs and not have bad days and not have bad times and not have all that shit. And that is a very irritating thing that Gen X men really wanted to turn into pixie dust.
Oh, I'm going to explode. Okay, here's the deal. Like, this one hits really close to home.
Same.
Because I'm sure a lot of the women listening right now have lived this. Like, you are supposed to be like quirky and fun and all these things, and it's what you bring out in him. But the minute you're like, well, I also have my own life, then he's like, they're disappointed.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah, it's like we're all done now with like then they don't want you anymore. The minute you're like I have to do some stuff for myself.
Right.
It's like what about me? They turn into Brittany from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Okay.
What about me?
Or I love this on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You don't know this one, but PK and Dorit were a couple that were like frickin' frack. They were like Disney villains. They were like two people who lived on the edges of what was legal. I'm not going to say anything else, but he only 9 years older than her. And if you look them up, you're going to be like, there's no fucking way. Because she's stunning and he's a toad. He's a British toad. And I don't mean that. I like British men, but I'm just kind of give you an idea of what this guy looks like. He's just like very red-faced. And he said to her when he broke up with her and they were like having their first meeting after separating, and she was like, we're going to work on our marriage. That's why we're separating. And he was like, no, we're going to get divorced. I'm going to date now. And he told her when he met her at their dinner date, they did separate, but it was like 2 or 3 days later, he meets her and he says, look how skinny I am. This is the single PK. To his wife.
Yeah.
To the mother of his children. And then he explains to her, when I first met you, I was the one that had all the ideas. I was the one that was an entrepreneur. I was the one. And he says, then we have kids and now you never want to leave home. And it makes me just infuriated. And I'm somebody who doesn't have kids. Sonia's the mother. I'm not the mother. But I have a lot of friends that have had kids, and I have nephews and nieces, and I understand what time it takes to raise a little one. And her kids are like 6 and 8. It's not like, and if for him, he's probably of the thinking of, if we have enough money, just send him to boarding school, and then you and I can run around and have fun. But once you become somebody, he's like, well, you don't need me anymore. And it's like, no, she does. It's just she needs you to do this now. Like,
he doesn't want to change. He wants to be a little boy forever. He's Peter Pan.
It's the Peter Pan syndrome, which is a whole other fucked up nature.
Well, there's this generation of men in particular don't know how to live life after the happily ever after.
Right.
Like they know how to do the chase, but they don't know how to deal with what comes after you.
And that person is a human being.
Yeah, after you finish the race or whatever, finish the chase or whatever. They don't know. One of the movies that drives me nuts, but I think it's really good, is High Fidelity. It's very good.
Yes. Go.
Yeah, he is the epitome of like a Gen X man in that movie. Like,
and it's John Cusack of all people, by the way.
Yeah, and he's like hopping from like Manic Pixie Dream Girl to the next because what can he get from them? They inspire him. And then the minute like the cute little panties turn into like
granny panties because they're comfortable, damn it.
Yeah, the real panties or the period panties or whatever, or the real nightgown that you actually sleep in. Like he's not interested in that anymore. And it's like, well, that's the real life, dude. The dream shit, that doesn't last. And if you're looking for that forever, you're going to be very lonely.
Yes. And there's a loneliness epidemic that we're told.
Yes.
But I'm saying my argument is that Gen X women, at least we go to therapy. At least we attempt to go to therapy. At least we attempt things like Brene Brown podcasts and stuff to kind of work on our shit. When you're just going from relationship to relationship to relationship, you're not taking any time to work on yourself.
No, it's about what that person, like these types of men are convinced that a certain kind of person is going to fix them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, that's not how, it's not going to work that way. You have to do the work on yourself. This is all about avoiding the work that you have to do for yourself. It's like, no, I will just be another version of me for someone else and it's going to work. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. Like they're just avoiding the work.
Exactly. And it's very hard as a woman, and everybody saw Barbie and saw the Barbie speech and all that. But and especially in an election year, it's just like, we're never enough. It's never enough what we give. And so at some point we're like, I need it for myself. I gotta reserve all this for me now and take care of myself for a while. So I can't take on another person. But they're raised to just like, oops, sorry. My Alexa, stop. It just turns on every once in a while, just had it randomly. But they have to, putting that on another person to fix you versus why don't you just fucking fix yourself? And I get it. People get very lonely. I do too. You can be lonely in a marriage. You can be lonely in a big crowded family. You can be lonely in a big city. It doesn't, that's a key emotion that it's kind of important to feel.
Yeah.
And it's kind of,
it is.
It really is to kind of figure out who you are and what you need.
Yeah. I did a lot of work on this. Like I am divorced from a Gen X man. Like, and when we split, I did a lot of work on getting comfortable with my own space and being comfortable being alone and being able to like entertain myself or being like, I like being by myself, like, and doing things with me. Like there's a lot of, I could say Gen X men, but there's a lot of people who just aren't comfortable being alone because then they're alone with their thoughts and they don't like what they're thinking and they don't want to do that
Which I
work.
get. And some people need more than others.
Yes.
But it is key to your personal development at some point in your life to be alone.
Yeah. And a lot of Gen X men in particular, there was a lot of divorce in the Gen X, and a lot of men were raised by single moms, and they've had a lot of moms do a lot of work for them to make their lives comfortable. And that not just like making their food and cleaning their houses and like cleaning the house and all of those things, but like the emotional labor that moms did for Gen X men. And then these men get married and they expect their wives to be their mommy now. And they expect like, you're going to do all the emotional labor. You're going to clean the house. You're going to raise the kids, but you also just have a full-time job too. But that's
because we can't afford to just live on my salary.
Yeah. So I think a lot of Gen X men recently got a wake-up call where women were like, we don't want to do all this work.
Right.
Like you need to be an equal partner. And that made a lot of Gen X men very angry.
It's what we heard during this election season, which is the demonization of people like me, single, childless, with a cat, 2 cats. Thank you. But we're people too. We also help raise your kids. We cover for you at work when you're on your maternity leaves. We do. Single women do a lot of things for their families and friends. Right?
Yes.
We really
and you contribute to society just like everyone else. We're all paying taxes. They all go to fund our parks, our schools, our streets, all the things. Like, it doesn't matter if, like, I don't. Yeah. Y'all are doing the work.
And I want to end this section with just kind of saying there is and I've noticed I find a disturbing pattern that some Gen X men don't actually want a conservative woman. And I mean, we're not talking about the extremes here, but they don't want the conservative woman because she's got to stick up her butt and she's just too whatever. They want someone who's confident, independent, but there's also a little part of them that wants to break it. There's a little part of them that wants to know that one thing that'll make you completely unwind.
Yeah.
And no, you may not have that because what if you fucking go?
Yeah.
Which
they want to break it, but they also want to take it.
Yes.
It's like they want it from you. They want to suck it out of you and like it's theirs now. And then they want to Trevor Noah wrote something in his book. I think his mom said it was about like taking the pretty bird and putting her in a cage. Like, it's like they don't want these like conservative, the Megyn Kellys, if you will, that say all the right-wing talking points. They want a really liberal woman that they can like tame.
Yes.
And be like, look what I did. I tamed this wild animal and I put her in a cage and I removed all of her teeth and look, you could just pet her now and it's so lovely. And now I'm going to move on to the next one.
Yeah, and she'll fix me. This one's going to do
Yeah.
this for me. It's so infuriating. Also coming up from this culture is F-boys and pickup culture. I want to talk a little bit about that. And this is also millennials for sure are associated with this, but these are just like toxic attitudes, for pickup artists. And we did do an episode about the pickup artist and Neil Strauss, but just
So gross.
It's so gross. Terms like negging women, the art of picking up women, all this, how to flirt with people. And I get it. It's awkward. It's difficult. It's hard to figure things out. I get that. But when it's, you realize when you're around 10 or 11 years old, for me, I developed early, like, you're all of a sudden you're different and you're weird and they just want to get at you. And it's so predatory and it's so fucking
it's
gross
and scary.
Yeah.
It's scary when all of a sudden, like, boys and men, grown men, start looking at you differently and talking to you differently. And it's yucky.
And I'll say this as like a Gen X, and beyond that, also, it was just office behavior. And when I first moved to New York, it was in 95 and I was working retail before that. So I didn't have an office job, right? I came to New York with like no skills. I was feral. I tell people, like, I don't know how the fuck I figured things out. But I soon learned that there's women that walk around the office that are young and they're just kind of figuring things out, and there's men that notice them. And they're kind of the office hero. They'll show you how to use the fax machine. They'll tell you which messenger is the one that'll come the quickest, but it all comes with the price of putting up with. There's so much. Gen X men were definitely sexual harassers. They were around it.
Totes.
And they do it. And they don't stop other people from doing it. Even if they don't do it, they know the guys that do, and they don't fucking call them out, which puts us in danger. And I call bullshit on that.
Yes.
Completely.
Gen X men are actually the most guilty.
Yes.
Of not keeping their friends, quote unquote, in check.
Yeah. They don't want to. They don't want to be the
friends.
They don't want to be the wet noodle. They don't want to be. Well, men don't say that, but they don't want to be the loser that like bums everybody out.
Right. They let their friends harass you at the bar
or say racist shit.
Shit. Yep.
Or they use the F word slur to, and if you believe me, telling Gen X men in my lifetime, like 20 years ago, you really shouldn't use that F word. Oh, I don't mean anything by it. I just mean, and the R word they didn't want to give up. They were so attached to that word.
That is still a thing.
Yes.
I'm like, I hear men my age use the R word, and I'm like, what is wrong with you?
What the fuck is actually wrong with you?
Yeah. Like, right. It's not okay to use that. And they purposely use it to see if, like, we're going to say something so that they can then be a victim of something. They want to be a victim of something. You're trying to censor me.
You're just too woke. I gotta just be free and all this shit. Yeah, no, they're really bad about that. Let's also go into toxic fandom, which we have talked about in the past. But it's, for me, I say it's that, once again, anti-hippie ethos that I saw Star Wars in the movie theater. That's how old I am. And I remember it clearly. It's one of my
A lot of Gen
memories.
X saw it in the theater.
Yeah.
Like,
my dad. My dad saw that they were, these people were lining up in Times Square. And my dad's just a curious guy, and he just talked to someone in line. And then it's so true. The next day he's like, "Hey, we're going this weekend to see a movie. It's supposed to be really good." And we're like, "Oh, okay." And then we go, and it's like the greatest movie that's ever existed.
Yeah, it was a huge thing.
It was, and Princess Leia was everything to me. I have a Princess Leia sweatshirt I wear all the time. Like, it says "Fight like a girl."
Yeah,
yeah. That's a part of the culture. Princess Leia is a part of the culture. Star Wars is about idealism and living in a perfect place where people live in harmony, much like Star Trek, much like a lot of science fiction. What is utopia? Utopia is when everybody gets to participate.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it should be. And then Star Wars movies started coming out. And no, I don't like the prequels, but they're not for me. And I don't care. But the Star Wars movies that have come out in the last 10 years, I've really enjoyed. And
Me too.
I am so angry about men shitting all over Star Wars because it's too woke for them, when that was its thesis. It's based on mythology and fairy tales.
So stupid.
It's so fucking stupid. But it's dangerous. Like, women have been doxxed by these assholes. And I'm not even going to Gamergate because that's a whole other level I won't get into.
Yeah.
But Star Wars really in particular, it just really gets under my goat. And part of that is because it's the cynicism of Gen X men that they can't handle that super hopeful thing. They can't engage in issues about social justice. It's not interesting to them. It's taking away from them. It's not male centered.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just ugh.
Yes. You nailed it right there with it's not male centered. The fact that The Last Jedi exists, or the Alkalite on Disney, or where, like, certain kinds of men react to that, like we're taking something away from them by having
Lucas robbed my childhood.
Yeah, like, because this isn't about a straight white man, somehow they're losing something. And it's like, no, this is not everything's for you. I mean, Here's the thing. I'm sorry that you have, like, when they say like they're anti-woke, it just means they have like no fucking empathy.
No.
They can't put themselves in anybody else's shoes. They can't watch something about a black woman becoming a Jedi and find anything to relate to, because they're just like, black woman, black woman, black woman. Like, it's all they can do. And like, not everything's, that's why they lost their shit about fucking Wonder Woman.
Yes.
And I was like, dudes,
Captain America.
Yeah, if you don't want to fucking see it, like, there's a gazillion comic book movies for you, and there's this one for women. And I remember walking out of that one. We did an episode on Dorking Out, you and I, and we talked about this. I had this amazing feeling like I could do anything when I walked out of Wonder Woman.
Same.
Like, wow, this is how straight white men feel all the time. Like, they see fucking Iron Man and like Captain America and Spider-Man and all that shit, and they're like, whee! They just leave the theater like flying, like, I can do whatever. And we get one movie, then we get another one, Captain Marvel, and I was like, yeah. And they're like just shitting all over it, because it's like,
we just gonna get chick movies now.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, it's like one movie for us that like means something to us, and they're like, must shit on it because things that women like aren't art. Like,
they're weaker than what we like. It's weaker than us. It's not as strong, as edgy as we are. Yeah, their lack of empathy is just celebrated.
Anything that women value, like music-wise, movie-wise, book-wise, it's chick flick, it's chick lit. Like, it's fucking pop music. It's like, yeah, and that's okay. And those things are great, and they don't make them less than.
Right.
And that shit makes me so angry. And the fact that they tried to like claim Star Wars, I was like,
you can't have it. Fuck you. I will fight that battle. I will fight that one.
Yeah, they're just like, I'm like, you're not Luke Skywalker, you're Darth Vader. Fuck off. Like, with that kind of talk. Like, it's so shitty. Just like all the MAGAs that are going to Wicked right now, and like, they're like, Trump is like the witch. And I was like, oh my God, tell me you don't understand what you're watching without telling me you don't understand. They're like, well, MAGA's like Elzeba and like the woke, just all that bullshit. I'm like, you're all dum-dums.
It's all about feminism there, by the way, and racism. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they just make it whatever they want it to be.
And I'm going to be careful about this section, Sonia, because we're talking about public figures and contradictions. Excuse me.
Yes.
In our second season, we talked about someone named Jayant Ghomeshi. So he was a Canadian broadcaster who had the number one show on the CBC radio and was also on CBC television. And it was sort of like he was the Terry Gross of Fresh Air, if you want to say, or, I mean, he's not funny, but he was like a Letterman. He had a talk show and everybody did that talk show. You know, Nicole Kidman, if she had a movie, she went there, like whoever it was. And 1967, he was born. He had a 90s band, and then he got into broadcasting, and he majored in women's studies when he was in college, which is a huge red flag because, and
it's a great way to pick up chicks, man.
And he would use that as a weapon when he talked to women in his interviews. Like they would talk about feminism and he goes, well, that's not true, actually. And I was a women's studies. He used to do this all the time. Turns out the guy had physically abused dozens of women over the years. And it's if you go back to, well, you have to join our Patreon to get that episode. But I also put a link in the from Toronto Star so you can read them for yourself. But he used that as a weapon against women. Joe Rogan is another example of somebody. He was the guy on news radio.
Dude hosted Fear Factor.
Fear Factor. Total Gen X guy. And now he has a podcast. He has Andrew Tate on. He has Jordan Peterson. All people that will be future episodes. They're just... I have to have a stronger stomach lining for that. I can't do this right now.
Well, also we're waiting for like a little end to that Andrew Tate one because it keeps going. Actually, both of them, it keeps going and going. It's like our Elon Musk. We're waiting for like a little tidy ending there, but
no, they just keep going because they keep attracting dumb guys that just are appealing to these men that just talk about women so dismissively and so cruelly, and it's just. What is your end game? And they marry, I don't got to talk about their wives, but even comedians, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, when they have a chance, and I think they're both hilarious. I think they're both super smart. I've enjoyed a lot of their work.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I wasn't too mad at Will Smith when he clocked Chris Rock.
You're like, he had it coming.
He had it coming. He had a comedy special on Netflix where he bitched about his wife for an hour, his ex-wife, the woman he cheated on relentlessly, the one that is the mother of his children, the one that ran a nonprofit for him. He just shit all over her. It's just like
because they don't like women.
No, they just don't like women.
No, they want to fuck them, but they don't like them.
No, exactly. I wanted to talk about an example of someone that didn't do that, and I think one, and I don't want to make Kurt Cobain a saint, but I can't tell you how important he was. I saw Nirvana back in the day. Sonia and I both can recall to you. I'm sure we can both recall to each other. Like the first time you saw Smells Like Teen Spirit, the video.
Yeah.
And it just fucking blew your mind.
Yep.
Kurt Cobain, which nobody remembers, was a fucking feminist. Kurt Cobain said, if you're racist, homophobic, or sexist, get the fuck out of my sight. Don't buy our records. Don't show up at our shows. I don't want to deal with you. When he first started dating Courtney Love, she often said, I was chubby and I had another nose when I met Kurt, and he still liked me and he still pursued her. And that Dave Grohl made fun of him for chasing after her because he could get way hotter women. Dave Grohl will be an episode one day. We need to kind of see where his path goes.
Yeah.
But Grohl is an example of a Gen X guy that everybody loved. Everybody he's so cool. He's got such good sense of humor. He's blah, 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 blah. And it turns out with women, he's a skunk. Oh, he loves his daughters. Congratulations. Wow.
Yeah. Bare minimum.
It's the bare fucking minimum.
Yeah.
I remember when it came out that he had a child out of wedlock, and I was like, not surprised. And people were like, what are you talking about? I've been knowing this shit about this guy for over 20 years. Just a...
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Margot, by the way, has worked in PR and worked for a lot of different magazines and knows a lot of people and hears a lot of things. Mad props to Margot for not coming on this podcast and like,
oh, there's a lot of shit.
And spilling the beans without like sources to back it up. Well, I don't know if I would have such. No, that's not true. I would show restraint as well because both you and I are very much like, no, you need to source that shit. But also,
oh, I don't want to get sued.
Yeah, no, we hear shit like that all the time.
Right.
So, but good on you for not coming on and spilling the beans.
I'll tell you off the air, sure.
Yeah. Fact.
You want to meet for a cup of coffee one day? Sure. I'll blab my ass off. I don't care.
Margot's got stories.
I got stories. I want to just say a few other things that also Gen X men, and it's winding up as Rush Limbaugh, who we did an episode on, and describing feminists as feminazis, this demonizing of women that just want to be treated like whole human beings.
The nerve.
And this is one thing. Hating things does not give you a personality. The fact that you don't like disco or Gilmore Girls or the Star Wars that had a female lead, it doesn't make you interesting. And I'm a very ragey person, but I understand that that's not a personality.
Right.
It doesn't mean doesn't give you a personality to describe all the things that you hate and what's wrong with them. It's negative. It's bullshit. Let me tell you, as somebody who's been through some stuff, life is short. Life is tenuous. Do the things that you love. Listen to music that makes you happy. Eat a sandwich that makes you happy. Tell your friends you love them. Show up for somebody when they don't expect it. Those things will make you happy. Those things will bring you friends, will make you feel less lonely. Yes. Lead with that. Put that in your smoking pipe and smoke it. And quit shitting on women. And that is my creep this week, Sonia. Gen X men. Ha!
Amazing job, my friend. No easy task. No easy task.
I kept it to the basics, y'all.
You really did. And we could absolutely do like part 2s and 3s. And so
I want to write a book someday. And I had one of our friends, Kristen Meinzer, said, you need to do this episode, Margot. Like you need to write this book. So this is sort of the first step towards that goal. There's other men I had on my list. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. Those are the other ones. I'm not going to list everybody. But my favorite Matt Damon was like when he said something really racist to a black woman during Project Greenlight and then proudly said, well, I'm really glad to help start the conversation about blah, blah. You didn't start a conversation, shithead.
Sigh.
You were called out on something you were unaware of, which we all have been. And that's embarrassing and humiliating. And sometimes you have to sit in your shit and stew in it a little bit and be embarrassed and then just do better. But to look at it like, look what, now everyone's talking about it. Look what I did.
You're welcome. Where's my cookie?
Oh my God. The fuck is wrong with you? And I'm sorry, I've really come around on the Ben Affleck and the Bennifer thing. I think he used her. And I hope J-Lo supposedly is really good in this new movie that she has out. In my dream world, either her or Pam Anderson wins an Oscar next year. Okay, you heard it first.
Okay.
One of them. One of those Gen X women.
I'll take it.
Who's put up with a lot of shitty Gen X men.
Yes.
Is rising through the ashes like a phoenix.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
I will take it. I'm honestly seriously tired of Gen X men posting things on social media when they've done the bare fucking minimum on something. Like, and they're like, where's my cookie? And give me some nookie. It's like, no, dude, no.
And one thing.
You did the bare minimum.
I know I keep saying one more thing, but this is really the one more thing.
No, one more thing.
Stop posting the memes of children in 70s clothes. So obviously it was the 70s. Riding bikes and they don't have helmets on and saying, dig this, we didn't need helmets or knee pads or elbow pads. Yes, we fucking did. Kids got hurt all the time when we were growing up.
Yeah.
How many casts did you sign on a kid when you were growing up?
Oh, many.
All the time.
Yeah.
It could be just head injuries that have caused all this.
I was just thinking the same thing. I'm like,
Maybe
maybe if we
that's
had
it.
helmets.
If it's CTC, maybe that's it.
Maybe some helmets and some seatbelts, and we would all be in a better place as a country.
Jesus Christ. Okay. I'm done now, Sonia.
Okay. No, we can keep going. And I'm sure this is going to come up in a bonus episode at some point.
Please reach out to us via social media, all those places and more, and let us know what you think about this episode and what
Yes.
and what you like and give us your stories. Okay, Sonia, It's your turn.
Okay, I've got a good Gen X man for you. Okay, his name is Sok Kim, and he was a pilot who used to transport rescue dogs and cats from disaster areas and overcrowded shelters, and he would deliver them to rescue groups. He got other pilots to do the same. Unfortunately, he was killed earlier this week. He was flying. I know this one's sad, y'all, but I want to talk about him because this is really good. He was flying with 3 rescue dogs, and he crashed into the Catskill Mountains. He was 49 years old, so Gen X. And he was killed, and one of the dogs was killed. The other 2 are fine. By the way, they're healing from their injuries, and I have links in our show notes of where you can donate. But he just seemed like this really, really lovely man. They said that like he had no like sinister motives. He didn't want recognition. He really just wanted to help. He had gotten his pilot license, and during the pandemic, he started flying rescue animals. So I also want to mention that the other 2 dogs, one is named Whiskey, and it's a 4-month-old Labrador puppy.
Oh shit.
He has 2 broken legs, but he's doing well. Like he's being taken care of. And then the other one is an 18-month-old Yorkshire Terrier mix named Pluto, and he just minor injuries. And again, they're both like receiving their care, and it's being paid for by one of the groups that I linked to. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk about Kim. So he worked in public relations and marketing, and he really loved, like, he was into cooking and he loved watching baseball, but he really wanted to fly. And so he got his pilot license, and apparently recently he had just got a job flying for a charter company. Oh, but he didn't even get to start.
Oh,
it's so sad. So, but during the pandemic, he started flying rescue dogs. He became like a dedicated volunteer. He did like 3 flights a week. He met other pilots and like recruited them to do the same, because a lot of these shelters, like, they get overcrowded. Some of them are kill shelters. And so different organizations pull animals before they're euthanized, and he would fly them to other shelters that have more space or no kill shelters and things like that. And he would always post pictures of like him in his plane with the like animals behind him, and he's like, thumbs up, smiling. Like, it's so sweet. It's like the most wholesome thing ever. During Hurricane Helene, he picked up like generators and supplies, and he would deliver them to the area. He would rescue animals from those areas and fly them to safety. It's estimated that he saved like hundreds of animals' lives by flying them to different places. He was married. He has 3 children. I know, it's so sad. He lived in Springfield, Virginia. Originally, he's from South Korea, and his wife said that he was just witty and spontaneous and super generous. And she said he always put like everyone ahead of himself. And this is the one that got me. She told reporters that she imagines he probably apologized to the dogs when the plane went down.
Oh, God.
Because she said he always put everyone ahead of himself. Like, and if you want to help organizations that do this kind of work, if you want to donate to his like funeral and things like that, these organizations have things set up One of them is called We Rate Dogs. I follow them on
Yes.
social media. They're delightful. Like their content is like, it just warms my heart every time I see it. Every week they do a countdown of all the dogs they see on social media. And it's like, and he always says, and the dogs were good again this week. And then he shares like all these amazing stories about dogs. They sell all this merch. This is like, tell your dog I said hi.
Uh-huh.
I wear that sweatshirt everywhere. I get a million compliments on it. And all that money goes to pay medical expenses for dogs in shelters that need like surgeries and things like that. So it's very, very wholesome. And they also put out an amazing newsletter every day with a picture of a cute dog.
Aw.
It's the best. So you could go to weratedogs.com. There's also a site called foreverchanged.org. It's like, foreverchanged AR, and then it's like .org. And they do a lot of these flights and you can support that sort of thing. And then the animal shelter where the rescue dogs went to is called like Skohari Animal Shelter. And the link is in the show notes. And sorry, I got a little.
Yeah, no.
It's just it's so sad. But he seemed like a really, really good man. His daughter took one of his flights with him over this past summer, and she said that on top of like flying the plane, she said he had like the biggest smile from ear to ear, and that he would talk to the dogs in the back, like, how you guys doing back there? And was always like looking and like checking on them. It is just the most wholesome thing ever. And like, what a sad, sad thing to happen. And I don't know, but also what a good man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like more of that.
Yeah. Lean into
More
that.
of that. More of that, please.
When you're feeling uncertain, lead into service.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very well put. And that's clearly what he was doing. And I was so sad to read this story. And most recently, he had flown. There was a dog named, I want to say the dog's name was Connie. And Connie was found in a like a storage container, and apparently it had been in there for like 8 days with no food or water. And they were like, we're going to fly this dog somewhere else. And he's like, raised his hand, like, I'll do it. He's like, how do I say no to that? I got you.
Oh.
And it was actually really like, it was all over the news, like that this dog was found, and and she's doing very, very good. And he flew the dog. It's so sweet.
We don't deserve dogs, by the way.
We don't. They're the best people. Dogs and pets.
Pets are
animals.
great. Animals are wonderful.
Yeah. Are you lonely? Get a pet.
Seriously, you'll get a new best friend.
Max drives me nutso. Love that dog so much. She's so good.
Yeah.
And my sweet little Toby. They're both rescue dogs. They're sweeties.
My cats are rescues. T was found on the side of the road in South Jersey.
Mm.
And Sadie's a Brooklyn girl.
Yeah. Max was from Puerto Rico. And Toby, actually, they don't know where Toby's from. Toby was just found wandering the streets.
Of the streets of San Francisco?
No, he was like middle of California. I forget exactly what town, but yeah, they just found him kind of wandering around. He was a runner back in the day.
Aw.
Yeah, he liked to run off. So, but nobody wanted him. So now he's with me. He's my baby.
Aw.
So that's our non-creep, So Kim.
Good job, Sonia. If you like the sound of our voices, by golly, after all this raging and crying that we've done, you're like, I need to hear more of this. Well, you're in luck. We co-host a show called Dorking Out, where we dork out about movies. Sonia, what are we going to be dorking out about next?
I'm so excited because our friend Adam Risky from F This Movie is joining us, and we're going to talk about The Preacher's Wife, starring Denzel Washington and Courtney B. Vance and someone named Whitney Houston. No big deal.
I watched it yesterday.
Yeah. So we're all going to chat. I'm really, really excited. Our episode that's out right now is Gladiator.
Yep. We had fun
And
talking about that.
We had so much fun talking about that one. So definitely check it out.
We also offer our recs for streaming, what to read, what to listen to. So that it's a complete show that'll help you with your pop culture, whatever.
Yes.
Somebody complimented. I think it's a compliment. I don't know if you ever get this, but do you ever talk to people and they're like, boy, you know a lot about movies, or you know a lot about like Hollywood gossip and stuff like that. I get that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I wonder.
I got a whole bunch at Thanksgiving. Like, what are you watching?
Yeah.
Like, what movie? Like, I get it all the time. And I'm like, that's great, because I like that that's something you can always talk to people about.
You know what? Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
All right. So all those places I mentioned at the top of the show, we'd love for you to reach out to us for your ideas for creeps and also non-creeps. We love it when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one from Ghostbusters, but just pick something on your own. Or you don't even have to get a gift. Just send us an email. We don't care. Just say hi.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We love it.
Our email, once again, is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. And Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Blue Sky.
Yay!
I'm having such a good time on Blue Sky. I'm also on Threads and Instagram and TikTok. And was there another? No.
Mastodon?
I think that's
Do
everybody.
you still have Mastodon?
Yeah, sure. That's there. I don't go there.
I think
But
I went one day.
You could go there. But yeah, you can find me, The Sonia Show, Sonia with an I, on all the things. Where can people find you, my friend?
You can find me at brooklynfitchick.com. I'm at brooklynfitchick for Threads and Instagram. I'm at Brooklyn Margot for Blue Sky, yay, and TikTok. And I am at my name, Margot Donahue, on YouTube. If you could please subscribe to that, because I have a book coming out next year. Saturday Night Fever. I'm doing
so excited.
And it's gonna be exciting. Let's think about the good things in the future, right? Let's focus on that. All right, everyone. Post Thanksgiving. Be thankful. Be kind. Don't be a creep.
A creep. Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.